Chapter 2751. They never knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had such thoughts, but even if they knew now, it wasn't too late. Lan Hongtai's eyes emitted a strong light. He had confidence in Bailey Hongzhuang. Since Bailey Hongzhuang dared to say such words at this moment, she must have made ample preparations. Lan Hongtai exchanged glances with Lan Borong and the rest. Their thoughts flew as they began to consider the situation before them. In fact, Lan Hongtai didn't hide Bailey Hongzhuang's true identity from his confidants. These confidants were all trustworthy. At the same time, they were also the ones who firmly supported Lan Yunxiao, so they were trustworthy. After these confidants found out that Bailey Hongzhuang was Lan Yunxiao's child, their thoughts towards Bailey Hongzhuang had completely changed. Lan Yunxiao was the only young master in their hearts. They didn't protect young master in the past, so they must protect young master's child now. Heavens, what's wrong with Bailey Hongzhuang? Isn't she from Limitless Palace? Now she's threatening to be the Lan family's successor? At this moment, Ouyang Yiqian was completely dumbfounded. Nothing that Bailey Hongzhuang had said before had shocked him as much as this one. Ouyang Heng's expression also changed. Soon after, he seemed to understand something and said in a low voice, "Perhaps this is the reason why Lan Qingyan and Bailey Hongzhuang didn't get along." Master Kuang couldn't wait to kill Bailey Hongzhuang before the coronation ceremony. It should also be related to this. Hearing this, Ouyang Yiqian looked at Ouyang Heng in astonishment and said, "Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang is really from the Lan family? How is this possible?" "Nothing is impossible." Ouyang Heng concealed the shock on his face and casually glanced at Deep Beichen and Mo Yunjue, who were not far away. "Look, young sect leader D and the rest are very calm. Obviously, they already knew about it." Ouyang Yiqian turned his head to look. Sure enough, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue were not surprised at all. On the contrary, they were very calm and even had a little smile on their faces. Just from this reaction, he was able to deduce many things. However, he had been very familiar with the Lan family since he was young, but he did not know that the Lan family had Bailey Hongzhuang. Yu Xiqing and Yu Taoyan's expressions changed as well. They were familiar with Bailey Hongzhuang's face. "Xiqing, is this Bailey Hongzhuang really Lan Yishuan?" Yu Taotian furrowed his brows, and his eyes flickered as if he wanted to confirm something from Yu Xiqing's answer. This, logically speaking, based on Lan Yishuan's condition, she shouldn't be alive. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's condition, I can't explain it either. Yu Xiqing was very hesitant. She had no way of determining this point. If Lan Yishuan had really survived, it would be a miracle. Young Palace Master Bailey, could it be that you're not clear-headed? Today is the Lan family's conferring ceremony. This is not the Wuji Palace. Only the Lan family has the right to be the successor of the Lan family. Lan Jingquang's eyes were cold, and his lips curled into a mocking smile. Bailey Hongzhuang had thought too simply. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang was really Lan Yishuan, who could prove it? Just the fact that her identity was not confirmed meant that Bailey Hongzhuang was doomed to have no hope. Chapter 2752. Young Palace Master Bailey, if you continue to spout nonsense here and ruin our Lan family ceremony, then don't blame us for being impolite. Lan Kaicheng, who had been silent, couldn't help but speak up. The development of this situation was getting out of their expectations. If they didn't stop this farce as soon as possible, they wouldn't be able to predict what would happen next. At this moment, Lan Qingyan could no longer look at everything as if she was watching a joke, because Bailey Hongzhuang was too confident. "Second Elder, why are you in such a hurry? It's still early. Could it be that you've done something wrong and are afraid that I'll continue?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked coldly at Lan Kaicheng. It was this guy who had been helping Lan Jingquan. When her parents were in a desperate situation, he ordered the family elders to protect Lan Jingquan. Now, he couldn't wait to stand up and protect Lan Qingyan's position. Sure enough, he was Lan Jingquan's good dog. Hearing this, Lan Kaicheng's expression changed, and he said sternly, "What nonsense are you talking about? You're just an outsider. How can my Lan family's dignity be challenged like this? I advise you to leave Blue Sun City now." Otherwise, my Lan family can't guarantee what will happen in the future. Second elder, the family head hasn't said anything yet. You can't go overboard. At this moment, Lan Borong's voice slowly sounded. Lan Kaicheng was stunned and looked at Lan Borong in astonishment. Could it be that Lan Borong and Bailey Hongzhuang had already colluded? Family head, Bailey Hongzhuang is just an outsider. If we let her continue to cause trouble, wouldn't it turn our Lan family's most important ceremony into a joke? Lan Jingquang looked at Lan Hongtai. He didn't know what this old guy was planning, but he could only use this method to pressure him. I've left for too many years. It's normal that Master Kuang doesn't remember me. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Lan Jingquang indifferently and said, "That's right. In your heart, I'm already a dead person. After all, the person who took my life back then was you, Master Kuang." In the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang pointed at Yu Siqing, who wasn't far away. "And that so-called master Yu Siqing over there." When these words came out, the crowd was in an uproar. The Lan family members who didn't know what was going on looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. They couldn't understand what Bailey Hongzhuang meant. The person that Ouyang was also shocked by the news. The incident that happened in the Lan family was earth-shattering, but had been peaceful for so many years. None of them thought that she might appear again. Them. Toot. I'm Lan Yishuan. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was firm and cold. It was as if she was announcing her true identity to the world. In a moment, everyone looked at the peerlessly beautiful woman on the high platform. The Lan family members' hearts were in turmoil. Lan Kaicheng and the others were completely dumbfounded. The thing they didn't want to see the most had happened. Chapter 2753. Heavens, did I hear wrongly? Young Palace Master Bailey actually said that she's Lan Yishuan. Isn't Lan Yishuan Master Yun's daughter? After so many years, she's actually back. I was wondering why Bailey Hongzhuang would say such things. So she's Master Yun's daughter. Then could it be that Yu Siqing poisoned Bailey Hongzhuang yesterday to eliminate the root of the problem? The entire central square erupted into a huge commotion. Such shocking news was like a huge stone being thrown into a calm lake, causing endless ripples. The crowd originally felt abnormally disgusted by Bailey Hongzhuang's interference, but after learning of Bailey Hongzhuang's true identity, their disgust vanished without a trace. That incident had caused a huge sensation in Blue Sun City. In fact, everyone felt an indescribable sense of regret towards Lan Yinshao. Back then, the infant child had suffered such cruelty, which was also something they did not want to see. However, they never expected that they would be able to see Lan Yishuan again after so many years. I was wondering why young Palace Master Bailey looked so familiar. So it's because he looks like Master Kuang. If Master Kuang and the rest still poisoned Bailey Hongzhuang after learning of this, then they're too repulsive. No matter what, Lan Yishuan is a member of our Lan family and the young miss of the main branch. How could they treat her like this? In a short period of time, the Lan family members had changed the topic. They felt sorry for what had happened in the past. Everything that belonged to Lan Yishuan had been taken away by Lan Jingquang and his family. If they still wanted to poison Lan Yishuan now, then they were too inhumane. Lan Jingquang and the rest's expressions darkened when they heard the sudden change in tone. They even felt like they were being condemned by the public. At this moment, Lan Jingquang felt as if he had returned to 19 years ago. At that time, Blue Sun City was also filled with curses like this. Everyone was accusing him of having no conscience and murdering his own brother. Lan Hongtai had also used this reason to prevent him from ascending to the position of Lan family head. After so many years, this kind of voice of the Lan family had finally disappeared. He had never thought that he would experience that kind of feeling again. You think it's enough just to say that you're Lan Yishuan? Lan Yishuan has already perished. Stop spouting nonsense. Lan Jingquang's eyes burned as he stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes filled with malice. Back then, you colluded with Yu Siqing to forcibly take away the rainbow deity pearl from my body and put it into Lan Qingyin's body, shattering my dantian. Naturally, You thought that I was dead." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a mocking smile, and his deep black eyes flashed with a cold and cruel light. "You colluded with outsiders to take everything away from me. You forced my parents into a dead end and killed them all for your own selfish desires. However, miracles often happen in this world. For example, you hope that I'm not dead. Did you think that your false pretense over all these years would be able to cover up your filthy heart and ugly soul?" Bailey Hongzhuang's voice suddenly rose. Her clear and cold voice rang clearly in every corner of the central plaza. Chapter 2754. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the entire plaza was in an uproar. Everyone's eyes fell on Lan Jingquang and Yu Siqing. Everyone was speechless when they had guessed before. Now, with Bailey Hongzhuang's confirmation, everyone was speechless to Lan Jingquang and Yu Siqing. This proved that after so many years, Lan Jingquang and Yu Siqing had never regretted what they had done. Instead, when they saw Lan Yishuan, they couldn't wait to take her life. At this moment, everyone chose to believe Bailey Hongzhuang's words. This was because the poisoning yesterday was an undeniable fact. It was only after connecting the dots that they finally understood the ins and outs of the entire matter. The murder 19 years ago wasn't enough. Now, they still want to take my life. However, I'm no longer the powerless baby from back then. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at the shocked Yu Siqing. Her lips curled into a mocking smile. "Here, I'll tell everyone a shocking secret that no one knows. I'll personally reveal the hypocrisy of Lan Jingquang's family and expose their true deeds to everyone." Lan Jingquang and the rest's expressions changed. The bad feeling in their hearts reached its peak. "Bailey Hongzhuang, stop your nonsense!" Lan Jingquang roared. "Everyone, don't believe her. She's just holding a grudge against Qingyan. Everything she said is a lie." At this moment, Lan Jingquang knew that he couldn't let Bailey Hongzhuang continue. Otherwise, all his years of hard work would go to waste. In the next moment, Lan Jingquang's energy surged, and he attacked Bailey Hongzhuang with his palm. However, Lan Hongtai and the rest had anticipated this. Just as Lan Jingquang was about to attack, Lan Borong and the rest had already blocked Lan Jingquang's path, preventing him from taking even half a step forward. At the same time, Lan Kaicheng, Lan Yongtai, and Lan Jingquang's people have been targeted by Lan Hongtai's people. As long as they dared to have the slightest intention of attacking, they would be stopped at the first moment. Previously, Lan Kaicheng and the others were still in shock. By the time they realized what was happening, they were already being controlled. Lan Qingyan's and Yu Manlin's expressions were extremely ugly. They had never thought that such a thing would happen when they were supposed to be basking in their glory. In all these years, they had never seen Lan Jingquang act so crazily. They began to panic. They didn't know what Bailey Hongzhuang was going to say next, but they also felt that those words were likely to pull them into the abyss of despair. Everyone saw it. Lan Jingquang wanted to kill me in order to cover up what he did. I, Lan Yishuan, have struggled at death's door for so many years. I have suffered humiliation and ridicule. I have left my home and cultivated with all my might just to come here today to seek justice for my parents. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was loud and sharp. It was like a knife piercing everyone's heart. They could still clearly remember the bloody baby back then. It could be seen that everything Bailey Hongzhuang said was not a lie. Chapter 2755. Lan Family Head, Lan Clan, I'm afraid you're still unaware of many things. Bailey Hongzhuang swept her gaze across the central plaza. Everyone's gaze landed on her. All these years, no matter how you investigated, you couldn't find my parents' whereabouts. That's because someone purposely covered up their whereabouts. Back then, in order to save me, my parents gave up their dignity and knelt in front of the Yu clan's clan leader Yu Taotian and Yu Siqing. However, it was a pity that they did not save me. On the contrary, under the collusion of the Yu clan and Lan Jingquang, they pursued my parents crazily. As soon as these words came out, it was like a huge bomb had exploded in an instant, sweeping through the hearts of everyone present. Almost at this moment, Everyone widened their eyes and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. Pursuit. They had never heard of this before. You're spouting nonsense. Back then, I was only looking for their whereabouts. How could there be a pursuit? Lan Jingquang quickly denied. He never knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was so knowledgeable about the past. If he had known, he would have taken Bailey Hongzhuang's life, even at the risk of being discovered last night. Yu Taotian and Yu Siqing couldn't help but stand up. Bailey Hongzhuang's information was beyond their imagination. At this moment, Yu Taotian finally understood why Bailey Hongzhuang had treated him like that. They were already irreconcilable enemies, so what was there to talk about saving face? Lan Hongtai's heart was also filled with shock. He never knew such a thing had happened. In fact, when he came out of seclusion and went to search for Lan Yunxiao's family, it was as if they had disappeared into thin air. There wasn't even a trace of them. Instantly, Lan Hongtai's gaze towards Lan Jingquang turned ruthless and ruthless. If that was really the case, then Lan Jingquang deserved to die. I'm spouting nonsense. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. In everyone's eyes, Lan Jingquang seems to have transformed into a positive image after all these years. He even showed remorse for what he had done in the past. In fact, all of this was an illusion. My parents haven't died for so many years. They were imprisoned by Lan Jingquang and the Yu clan. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they stared at Lan Jingquang and Yu Siqing in shock. This news was simply too explosive. All these years, the entire Lan family had been searching for the whereabouts of Lan Yunxiao and the others. If what Bailey Hongzhuang said was true, then didn't that mean the Lan family had been kept in the dark by Lan Jingquang and the Yu family all these years? If what happened before was enough to make Lan Hongtai furious, then Bailey Hongzhuang's words made him want to strangle Lan Jingquang and Yu Siqing with his own hands. Lan Hongtai's body couldn't help but tremble. He had never thought that the truth would be like this. Originally, he thought that Lan Jingquang's actions were despicable to the extreme. But now, everything he learned proved that Lan Jingquang was a beast in human clothing. My parents have been imprisoned in the underground prison of Yu Siqing's residence all these years. All these years, they suffered the ravages of Yu Siqing and Lan Jingquang. Chapter 2756. Do you know why Lan Jingquang and his family have been visiting the Yu clan all these years? That's because they wanted to see my parents. Lan Jingquang, Yu Manlan, and Lan Qingyin, every time they visited the Yu clan, it was a new round of torture for my parents. These are the good people in your hearts. These are the most outstanding youths in the Lan clan in your hearts. They only snatched the rainbow pearl that belonged to me. Yet they still think that they're geniuses, despicable bastards. They're a filthy and shameless family. Bailey Hongzhuang pointed her right hand at Lan Jingquang and his family. Her dark eyes flashed with a terrifying light. The truth behind her aggressive words was enough to send chills down everyone's spines. Lan Jingquang and his family were completely dumbfounded. All this time, they thought that they had hidden it very well and that no one would discover the truth. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was standing in front of them now, saying all this in front of everyone's eyes. Yu Manlan's body couldn't help but tremble. She grabbed Lan Qingyin's arm tightly. She was afraid that without Lan Qingyin by her side, she would fall down at any time. Lan Qingyin's situation wasn't much better than Yu Manlan's. She could feel that after Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone's gaze towards him had changed. The original respect and love had disappeared, replaced by disbelief and disgust. If all this was true, they didn't doubt that from today onwards, they would become the most despised people in the Lan clan. The Rainbow Pearl. That was something that Lan Qingyin had always been extremely proud of. For so many years, the Lan clan hadn't had a successor with the Rainbow Pearl, but she had. All these years, she had relied on the Rainbow Pearl to become the most respected pearl in the Lan clan, enjoying the respect and reverence of everyone. However, when the real Lan Yishuan appeared, the existence of the Rainbow Pearl became a disgrace. She snatched the Rainbow Divine Pearl and cultivated for so many years, but her cultivation was only slightly stronger than Bailey Hongzhuang. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell who was stronger and who was weaker. Bailey Hongzhuang's words had a huge impact on the Lan family. Even Lan Kaicheng and the others couldn't help but be dumbfounded after knowing all this. Even though they were Lan Jingquang's trusted aides, they didn't know that Lan Yunxiao and his wife were still alive and had been imprisoned by Lan Jingquang. All this time, they had been wondering why Lan Jingquang and his family would often visit the Yu clan. It was one thing for Yu Manlan to be willing to return home for a short stay, but for Lan Jingquang to go there every once in a while was very strange. However, no matter how much they thought about it, they did not expect such an outcome. Thinking about it carefully, not only did he rob his own brother's family of precious things, but he also used poison to torture them. This kind of heart was really frightening. Lan Hongtai only felt that his brain had been ruthlessly hammered by someone. With such a huge amount of information smashing into him, he actually had some difficulty digesting it. If it was said that when he heard about the assassination attempt, he already felt that Lan Jingquang deserved to die 10,000 times over. Now that he understood everything, he felt that his eldest son was worse than a beast. Chapter 2757. He originally thought that even if Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlan were so deranged for their own benefits, Lan Xingyan would not be like them. All this time, Lan Xingyan had been very diligent in her cultivation and had always been very sensible in front of him. Although the rainbow pearl in Lan Xingyan's body belonged to Lan Yishuan, she was still young at that time. This matter was completely led by Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlan, so Lan Xingyan could not be blamed. Therefore, even if he did not want to pay attention to Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlan, he had always been good to Lan Xingyan. However, the truth now was that Lan Xingyan had already known all of this and had even wallowed in the mire with her parents. This was too abominable. Is everything Bailey Hongzhuang said true? This is too unbelievable. If all of this is true, then Lan Jingquang and his family are worse than beasts. I don't understand. What did Master Yin do to Master Quang? Why would Master Quang do this to Master Yun's family? Even if they're not family, such methods are extremely cruel, let alone his own brother. Everyone looked at Lan Jingquang and his family with puzzlement. For his own selfish desires, he did such a despicable thing. Not only did he take everything away, he also humiliated and tortured them. Was such a person really worthy of their respect? I have always admired the young master, but I never knew that his true colors were like this. This is too disappointing. Words of disappointment and heartache came out from the mouths of the Lan family members. At this moment, they only felt that they had been deceived. The person they had admired for so many years was so despicable and vicious behind their backs. It was completely different from the image they had in their hearts. Lan Hongtai's gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Is everything you said true?" He did not want to doubt Bailey Hongzhuang's words, but the content was too shocking. Even he found it hard to accept at this moment. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang met Lan Hongtai's gaze without fear and said, "Everything I said is true." In the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Yu Siqing. "Master Yu, at that time, you used your superior medical skills to destroy my family as you wished. Over the years, dozens of deadly poisons have been planted in my parents' bodies, making them taste the taste of pain. It was precisely because I knew of your ability that I specially learned the art of healing and poison. Now that I have returned all of this to your Yu clan, how does it feel to see your own clansmen being poisoned but unable to cure them? Do you still enjoy it?" Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a sinister curve. She narrowed her almond-shaped eyes and looked at Yu Siqing with a half-smile. However, as soon as Bailey Hongzhuang finished speaking, Yu Siqing and Yu Taoyan's expressions changed abruptly. They looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. "So, the person who poisoned my Yu clan was you?" Yu Taoyan stared furiously at Bailey Hongzhuang. He had always hated the main culprit who had brought the Yu clan to such a state. Unfortunately, he had never found out who was the culprit. It was only now that Bailey Hongzhuang had admitted it personally that he finally understood that the main culprit was Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 2758. Yu Siqing looked at the proud white figure in front of her in shock. Previously, she had always felt that Bailey Hongzhuang gave her a familiar feeling, but she couldn't figure out where she had seen her before. Until now, after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the figure in her mind finally overlapped with the Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her. Although their appearances were different, their figures were shockingly similar. "You are Xianyi." Yu Siqing pointed at Bailey Hongzhuang, her face filled with shock. "Xian Yi Xuan. So this is what happened. I actually didn't see through your disguise." Now that she recalled everything, Yu Siqing finally understood where the problem lay. From the beginning to the end, Xian Yi's appearance was to take revenge on the Yu clan. However, they had thought of everything too simply and never thought of this possibility. After hearing Yu Siqing's words, Yu Taotian couldn't help but be stunned. When he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, the astonishment in his eyes was even more intense. The Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him was actually the Yu clan's #1 in the recruitment, the Xian Yi that he had wanted to give an important task to. The crowd was in an uproar again. Lan Xingyin and the others also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. All along, the identity of the culprit who destroyed the Yu clan had been a mystery. However, no one would have thought that the culprit was actually Bailey Hongzhuang. Therefore, everything was Bailey Hongzhuang's conspiracy. Bailey Hongzhuang first planned everything to destroy the Yu clan, then came to the Lan clan. This was a shocking conspiracy. Ouyang Yitian's mouth was wide open as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was standing in the middle of the stage and complaining. Such shocking news was simply too shocking. Just the news that Bailey Hongzhuang was Lan Yixuan was enough to shock everyone. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang was the instigator of the destruction of the Yu clan. He didn't think that this matter was too much. After all, the Yu clan had done the same thing to Lan Yixuan back then. What kind of cause, what kind of effect? Today, the Yu family simply didn't have the qualifications to blame Bailey Hongzhuang. However, what shocked him the most was Bailey Hongzhuang's ability. From the beginning to the end, there were no signs of Limitless Palace making a move. Bailey Hongzhuang had only relied on her own poison techniques to make the Yu clan fall into such a predicament. This kind of method was really amazing. Ouyang had already guessed that today's ceremony would be very exciting, but the degree of excitement still exceeded his imagination. "In your hearts, I'm already dead. Naturally, you won't think of me." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Yu Siqing and Yu Siqing mockingly. "When you committed the unforgivable crime against our family, you should have expected this day to come. Since you can poison others, then others can naturally poison you too." Looking at the stern Bailey Hongzhuang in front of them, everyone couldn't help but imagine a scene. That year, the Yu clan relied on their own poison techniques and colluded with Lan Jingquang to destroy her family. And this young girl had endured for many years, continuously studying poison techniques and increasing her cultivation, all for the sake of revenge like today. This was a terrifying plan, but it made people feel pity for her. Because of Lan Jingquang and the others' selfish desires, this young girl had endured and worked hard for so many years. Chapter 2759. Poison me? Yu Siqing laughed icily as her eyes flashed with a maniacal light. "Even if you've been by my side for so long, what can you possibly do to me?" She hated the fact that she had missed out on a crucial part of her plan. She had thought that she would be able to end Situ Yin and Mu Lingbing's bloodline. She never thought that this damned girl, Lan Yixuan, would be like an unkillable cockroach. She had actually managed to survive. A despicable and shameless person like you would naturally be on guard against others. However, it seems that you still haven't noticed the huge gift that I've given you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled at Yu Siqing. Her bright and dazzling eyes strangely made Yu Siqing feel guilty. "What do you mean by that?" Yu Siqing's expression darkened and her heart grew uneasy. Bailey Hongzhuang had been far too confident. "That year, I've repackaged the huge gift that you've given to my maternal grandmother before giving it to you again, Bailey Hongzhuang said nonchalantly. Yu Siqing's eyes widened as she spoke in disbelief. What did you say? You've given me a huge gift back then. Don't tell me that you've forgotten about it. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows. Yu Siqing's mind was filled with thoughts. The huge gift that she had given. Could it be? In the next second, Yu Siqing quickly looked at her wrist. After pressing down hard, she saw a thin red line faintly appear on her wrist. Yu Siqing's expression instantly turned extremely ugly. You've poisoned me with parasite. Yu Siqing raised her voice and screamed in disbelief. The poison that she had used on Mu Lingbing had been specially prepared. It had been lost for many years and was almost impossible to find. She had never thought that there would be someone who would poison her like this. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of everyone present changed. Parasite poison was a poison that everyone had always been wary of. Bailey Hongzhuang was so young, yet she had already mastered parasite poison. That's right. This parasite poison was originally yours. I'm just returning it to you. When did you poison me? Yu Siqing felt as if she was about to go crazy. She was very clear on how powerful this goo poison was. It was precisely because she hated Mu Jints that she used this poison on her. However, she never thought that the poison would end up in her body. Is that cup of tea tasty? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a dazzling smile. Yu Siqing's frenzied look was truly delightful. This abominable woman is finally starting to suffer the consequences of her own actions. However, the brighter Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was, the more devilish it appeared in Yu Siqing's eyes. After this reminder, Yu Siqing immediately remembered. She had always been on guard against Xian Yi and was not willing to give Xian Yi the slightest chance. She did not expect that in the end, she would still fall for it. Hurry up and hand over the antidote. At this moment, Yu Siqing had completely lost her mind. I'm going to kill you, girl. Yu Siqing immediately rushed out from her seat. However, before she could reach Bailey Hongzhuang, Bewitching had already struck her down with one blow. If you don't want to die immediately, you'd better stay there obediently. Bewitching's expression was gloomy and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. She had dared to attack Bailey Hongzhuang right in front of him. She was simply digging her own grave. Chapter 2760. Originally, everyone had some doubts about this matter, but after seeing Yu Siqing's performance, they had already tacitly agreed that what Bailey Hongzhuang said was the truth. The reason for that was because Yu Siqing had never denied this matter. Not only that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Yu Siqing's conversation revealed another piece of information. Yu Siqing had even poisoned Bailey Hongzhuang's grandmother. How frightening was that? Destroying Lan Yishuan's entire family wasn't enough. She even didn't spare her grandmother. Lan Hongtai and the elders of the Lan family were so shocked that they didn't know what to say for a while. However, after digesting the truth, Lan Hongtai was so angry that he was trembling. Imprisonment, poison, torture. These three words slammed into Lan Hongtai's heart one after another, causing his heart to tremble. He originally thought that the death of Lan Yunxiao and his wife was the most unbearable pain in his life, but he never imagined that the pain they suffered these past few years was even worse than death. And all of this was caused by his eldest son. He suddenly couldn't understand how he had given birth to such a vicious and merciless person. Jingquang, did you really do all of this? Lan Hongtai's voice was cold and imposing. His sharp gaze pierced through Lan Jingquang, as if he could see through his soul. Lan Jingquang's heart turned cold when he saw that indifferent gaze. He hadn't felt fear for many years, but now he felt fear again. Even if Lan Hongtai's gaze was filled with disgust in the past, at least there was some warmth. But now, Lan Hongtai was looking at him as if he was looking at a stranger. This kind of feeling made him feel apprehensive. No, this can't be true. Lan Jingquang hurriedly denied it. He definitely couldn't admit to this. Otherwise, he'd never be able to stand up again. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're slandering me. How can you prove that you're Lan Yishuan? Is it just because you have a similar face? Lan Jingquang glared viciously at Bailey Hongzhuang. Everything that happened just now made him feel like he had fallen into hell. He could not let everyone believe what Bailey Hongzhuang said. If my face is not enough to prove it, then what about what Yu Siqing said just now? Bailey Hongzhuang said coldly. I don't know anything about the grudges between you and the Yu clan, but if you want to use this as an opportunity to frame me, aren't you too naive? Speaking of which, what evidence do you have for all of this? If you don't have any evidence, then you're just making things up. As soon as he said this, everyone who was immersed in shock regained some of their rationality. The impact of Bailey Hongzhuang's news was so great that they had forgotten the most important point. From the beginning to the end, they had only heard Bailey Hongzhuang say that she was Lan Yishuan, but in fact there was no evidence. Everyone's gaze once again fell upon Bailey Hongzhuang. If there was no evidence, then they would have to carefully consider whether or not this was true. Lan Jingquang and his family heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that the crowd's mood had finally changed. At least they still had hope. However, at that moment, a mellow and magnetic voice suddenly rang out. Chapter 2761. The familiar voice startled everyone on the high platform. They hadn't heard this voice for a long time, but inexplicably awakened their memories. Isn't this Master Yun's voice? Lan Borong's face was filled with disbelief. He had watched Master Yun grow up. Even after more than 10 years, he still remembered Master Yun's voice very clearly. Hearing Lan Borong's words, everyone present was shocked, and they all turned towards the direction of the source of the voice. In the next second, under everyone's shocked and astonished gazes, two figures slowly walked up from the high platform and appeared in front of everyone. The man was wearing an aqua-blue brocade robe. His figure was tall and straight, and his features were elegant and handsome. His expression was calm and distant, and his eyes were clear and warm, like a gust of spring wind. Just looking at him gave people an indescribable feeling of comfort. The woman beside the man was wearing a light purple dress. Her appearance was outstanding, beautiful but not gaudy. The two of them stood together like a pair of peerless jade lovers, walking on the wind. However, when they saw the two figures, everyone on the stage seemed to have forgotten what they were doing and where they were. Their eyes were fixed on the two of them, filled with astonishment and shock. These two people were none other than Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing. Lan Kaicheng and the other elders were completely dumbfounded when they saw the two figures. They couldn't help rubbing their eyes, wondering if they were seeing things. How could people who had disappeared for so many years appear again? Moreover, their appearances were exactly the same as when they left, without the slightest change. Lan Hongtai, who was originally furious, froze the moment he saw Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing. It was as if he was struck by lightning. He stared at the two familiar faces in disbelief. He had even forgotten his initial fury. He only looked at the two figures longingly, afraid that he was dreaming. Yunxiao, are you back? Lan Hongtai's voice was extremely soft. He was only worried that the two figures before him were just illusions. Perhaps if his voice was a bit louder, the two figures would disappear. Lan Yunxiao nodded, his eyes filled with indescribable excitement as he looked at Lan Hongtai. Yes, father, I'm back. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire central square seemed to have exploded, erupting with a violent roar. Oh my God, Master Yin actually came back. Master Yin is not dead. He is still the same as before. Now that Master Yin has testified, it proves that Bailey Hongzhuang is indeed Lan Yishuan, and everything she said before is true. After a short shock, everyone quickly figured out everything. If Bailey Hongzhuang's similar face was not evidence, then the appearance of Master Yun and his wife had proved everything. Yu Siqing, Yu Manlan, and Lan Qingyan looked at the two silhouettes that suddenly appeared in front of them. They only felt a roar in their heads. They couldn't believe it. Back then, Yu Siqing had suspected that Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had been rescued by someone. But because no one knew about this, she didn't think anyone would come to rescue them, so she didn't take it to heart. And now, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her, Yusiching's mind immediately connected everything. Chapter 2762. If all of this was done by Bailey Hongzhuang, then wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang too frightening? After Yusiching connected all these things together, she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, her eyes filled with dread. Back then, she was just an infant who was on the verge of death. After she grew up, not only did she become so outstanding, she even saved her parents, cured their poison, and took revenge on the entire Yu family. Now, she came to the Lan family to take revenge on Lan Jingquang's family. If all of this was planned by Bailey Hongzhuang, then how frightening was she? Could it be that their plans all these years were completely ruined by Bailey Hongzhuang, whom they had completely ignored? Qingyan, weren't Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing already dead? Why are they here? Yu Manlan stared fixedly at the two outstanding figures in front of her, her voice somewhat stupefied. Lan Qingyan's situation wasn't much better than Yu Manlan's. Too many things had happened today. For a moment, she only felt that her brain was about to explode. She simply couldn't take in so much information. For so many years, she had always looked at Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing in a disheveled state. She didn't even bother to look at their faces. Now that she saw them with her own eyes, she finally understood why everyone was so shocked when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang. It was because they really looked too similar. I'm afraid it didn't even die back then. Bailey Hongzhuang just found two scapegoats to save them. If they didn't understand what was going on before, now that they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Yunxiao standing together, they should understand. The moment Lan Jingquang saw Lan Yunxiao appear, he was completely stunned. Perilous waves surged in his heart. He never thought that he would see Lan Yunxiao again in this lifetime. He only hoped that Lan Yunxiao was really dead. But now that he appeared with this appearance, could it be that he wanted to snatch everything back, just as he was about to obtain everything? Thinking of this, Lan Jingquang could not help but turn his head to look at Yu Manlan, who was not far away. The gloom and disgust in his eyes made Yu Manlan quiver. When he first heard the news of Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing's deaths, he had his suspicions and even requested to investigate this matter thoroughly. It was Yu Manlan who kept telling him that there was no possibility of them being alive and even provided him with all kinds of evidence. Only then did he let down his guard. However, it was precisely because they did not continue to investigate that they had fallen into such a passive situation. This stupid woman, unable to accomplish anything, but good at spoiling everything. All his years of hard work had been destroyed because of this woman. Noticing Lan Jingquang's gaze, Yu Manlan lowered her head guiltily. She knew that she was wrong this time. However, who would have thought that something like this would happen? Big brother, we haven't seen each other for a few months. Lan Yunxiao's lips slowly curled into a smile, but the depths of his eyes were filled with a cold and bitter light. You're used to seeing me as a prisoner. Now that you see me like this, are you very surprised? Chapter 2763. Captive. These three words already proved that it was Lan Jingquang who had imprisoned Lan Yunxiao all these years. Yunxiao, is everything Yishuan said before true? Lan Hongtai's voice was trembling. However, compared to his previous disbelief, his words now contained tacit agreement and understanding. That's right, it's true. Lan Yunxiao's unhesitant answer shocked everyone once again. Now that things had come to this, it was enough to confirm the truth. No matter how Lan Jingquang and his family quibbled, all their quibbles were meaningless the moment Lan Yunxiao appeared. Heavens, it really is Master Quang who imprisoned Master Yun and Madam all these years. Then the matter of him poisoning and torturing them is also true. How could this happen? Isn't Master Quang too ruthless? No matter what, Master Yun is still his younger brother. How could he do something worse than a pig or a dog? All these years, Master Quang revealed his guilt towards Master Yun, which was why he was accepted by the clan. Now it seems that everything was just a facade. From start to finish, Master Quang didn't have the slightest bit of regret in his heart. For a moment, Everyone's gaze towards Lan Jingquang was filled with confusion and disgust. As a clan member, they had always loved each other and helped each other so that the Lan family could develop better and better. However, as one of the representatives of the Lan family, Lan Jingquang was so cold-blooded and vicious behind their backs. How could they accept this? At this moment, Lan Jingquang felt like he was being condemned by everyone. Everyone was spitting on him. Even those who usually worshipped him had looks of disgust on their faces. In fact, he always knew that once his actions were exposed, he would definitely be criticized, so he had been very careful all these years. For 19 years, no one had discovered any clues. However, he didn't expect everything to happen so suddenly and catch him unprepared. It's over. This was the only word left in Lan Jingquang's mind. The winner was king, and the loser was a bandit. When Lan Yunxiao appeared with this appearance, he was already finished. Men, capture this beast for me. Lan Hongtai no longer hesitated and swiftly gave the order. If he had known about the cruel things Lan Jingquang had done all these years, he would have personally killed his son, who was worse than a beast. Unfortunately, he had always been kept in the dark while Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had suffered for so many years. Thinking back to Bailey Hongzhuang's previous accusations, every word was like a gem. 19 years of torture, dozens of poisons, and Yu Siqing's test subject. These words hit his heart one after another. If he didn't punish Lan Jingquang, how could he face everyone? With Lan Hongtai's order, Lan Borong and the other elders took the lead and attacked Lan Jingquang without hesitation. They were all Lan Yunxiao supporters. Among them, there were many who still firmly supported Lan Yunxiao when he was betrayed by everyone. They had endured this resentment for many years. Now that they knew the truth, they felt that it was even more intolerable. They would absolutely not continue to endure it. Chapter 2764. Vigorous elemental energy exploded from Lan Jingquang's body, displaying the strength of a 7th-level Purple Realm cultivator. Now that things had progressed to this stage, he could not allow himself to be captured. Otherwise, he would be the one to become a prisoner. Lan Borong's grab was aimed directly at Lan Jingquang. At the same time, the elders of the Lan family were not slow either. Lan Jingquang's position in the Lan family was inseparable from his strength. His strength, even in the Lan family, was extremely powerful. Therefore, the elders did not dare to be negligent and chose to attack at the same time. Lan Jingquang had committed such a heinous crime, so they had to capture him. Bang, bang, bang. Monstrous elemental energy exploded in an instant. Dazzling martial skills were displayed. The energy of the collision was extremely shocking. The energy of a battle between two Purple Realm experts was extremely terrifying. The Lan family members near the central square all retreated a little. The events of today's appointment ceremony had changed so quickly that it was completely out of everyone's expectations. Just a second ago, Lan Jingquang was still a hero in everyone's hearts. In the next second, Lan Jingquang had become an intolerable sinner. This change was really hard to digest. Lan Xinyan and Yu Mamlan stood in the same place blankly. At this moment, they did not know what to do. Everything had been exposed. The matter of Lan Xinyan becoming the head of the Lan family seemed to have become an illusion. Now that the elders were working together to subdue Lan Jingquang, they did not know if they should help Lan Jingquang or think of a way to wash away all the blame. Bailey Hongzhuang, this is all your fault. Lan Xinyan glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. The anger and hatred in her eyes were enough to completely swallow the latter. She originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang did not have the ability to destroy everything today. She did not expect the real situation to be completely different from what she had imagined. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferently at the hysterical Lan Xinyan. Everything has a cause and effect. If it were not for the cause that you had planted, how could there be today's result? All these years, you used my rainbow pearl and enjoyed all the resources that should have belonged to me. Weren't you very happy? Now that I'm asking you to hand everything over, it must be very difficult for you to accept, right? Hearing this, Lan Xinyan's body shook. Her bloodshot eyes suddenly widened. She wanted to refute everything Bailey Hongzhuang said. However, after thinking about it carefully, she didn't know where to start retorting. The rainbow divine pearl in her body belonged to Bailey Hongzhuang. This was something that everyone knew. If the incident back then hadn't happened, and Bailey Hongzhuang had been living in the Lan family all these years, the person who would be praised as the proud daughter of heaven would only be Bailey Hongzhuang, and it would have nothing to do with her. I don't care. Lan Qingyin crazily shouted, "You damned woman. You should have died back then. Why are you still alive?" She couldn't accept the feeling of falling from heaven to hell. Once Lan Jingquang was subdued, she could already predict what the Lan family would do next. She absolutely couldn't accept it. This sudden shout shocked everyone present. In reality, after Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, everyone's attention had shifted to Lan Jingquang and Yu Siqing. They had almost forgotten that Lan Qingyin was the main character today. Chapter 2765. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to Lan Qingyin's crazed shouts, but the coldness in her eyes deepened. The reason why I've come this far is to take back everything that belongs to me. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes blossomed with a dazzling brilliance. Her voice was sonorous and forceful, emitting an unparalleled, domineering aura. From the day she was reborn in Lan Yishuan's body, she swore that she would avenge the original owner of this body. Only today did she fulfill her promise. The real Lan Yishuan could finally rest in peace. In reality, if she hadn't been reborn and occupied Lan Yishuan's body, none of this would have happened. Lan Jingquang and his family scheme would have succeeded. Fortunately, the heavens had eyes. An eye for an eye, an eye for an eye. You've stolen everything that belongs to me for so many years, but you still don't have enough self-awareness. You're indeed Lan Jingquang's daughter. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled mockingly. She had always believed that people were born good by nature. However, Lan Jingquang and his family clearly didn't know what good was. In their hearts, there was only profit. Aside from that, all familial love and justice were meaningless. You won't succeed just like that. All of this is just your side of the story. Lan Qingyin's mind spun rapidly. She couldn't just hand over the entire Lan family. If she lost this identity, she would be nothing. Thinking of how she was surrounded by stars all these years, her pride, her self-esteem, everything would be completely destroyed. Taking advantage of the time when everyone was distracted by Lan Qingyin, Lan Jingquang broke away from Lan Borong and the others' encirclement and directly attacked Lan Yunxiao. Good brother, do you think you can take everything back just because you're here? That's impossible. Lan Jingquang's eyes were filled with madness. His feminine face was malevolent to the extreme. Even if I have to die, I'll drag you down with me. He definitely wouldn't let Lan Yunxiao have what he couldn't get. Lan Jingquang attacked Lan Yunxiao with lightning speed. Since everyone was pointing fingers at him, he didn't mind taking on another crime and killing his own brother with his own hands. He had already made a mistake by not killing Lan Yunxiao. Now, he would personally resolve this mistake. Yunxiao, be careful. Master Yin, be careful. Lan Hongtai and the rest of the Lan family cried out when they saw this scene. However, they were a certain distance away from Lan Yunxiao and Lan Jingquang. Even if they wanted to stop them, it was too late. Lan Yunxiao's reaction speed was extremely fast. In fact, he had been paying attention to Lan Jingquang's actions. Back then, because of his carelessness, he lost to Lan Jingquang. Now, he would not let the same mistake happen again. Bang! Just as Lan Jingquang's fist was about to hit him, Lan Yunxiao's fist also met it. Two energy ripples spread out from the fist. Lan Jingquang and Lan Yunxiao both took a step back at the same time. Feeling the power from his fist, Lan Jingquang once again looked at Lan Yunxiao in disbelief. How is this possible? All these years, Lan Yunxiao was immersed in torture every day. Although his cultivation wasn't crippled, it didn't make any progress and even regressed. Chapter 2766. However, He clearly sensed that Lan Yunxiao's cultivation had also reached the 7th level of the Purple Realm. How was that possible? It had only been a short time since Lan Yunxiao disappeared. Even if his cultivation talent had always been strong, it was impossible for him to improve so much in such a short time. Moreover, after more than 10 years of torture, Lan Yunxiao's body had long been ruined. Add to that the various poisons in his body. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang could cure him of the poison, it would take a long time for his body to recover. No matter how one looked at it, it was impossible for Lan Yunxiao to reach this level of cultivation. Lan Yunxiao coldly looked at Lan Jingquan. You've been acting almighty in front of me all these years. I think you've already forgotten how I was above you all those years ago, haven't you? If it was the Lan Yunxiao of the past, he would never say such words to Lan Jingquan. However, after more than 10 years of cruel treatment, Lan Yunxiao had long severed his brotherly relationship with Lan Jingquan. From the moment Lan Jingquan forcefully extracted the rainbow pearl from Lan Yishuan's body, they were already enemies. In order to quickly recover his cultivation, whether it was Hong Zhuang, Situ Yin, or Mu Jin's, they had all thought of ways to make him consume heavenly treasures so that his body could recover as soon as possible. Although he couldn't cultivate because of the poison in the past, he had never forgotten this matter. His dantian had been dry for a long time, but once he started cultivating, his speed of absorption was much faster than before. Lan Jingquan's expression turned even uglier at Lan Yunxiao's words. Even though so many years had passed, the situation back then was still vivid in his mind. It was a nightmare that he couldn't forget for so many years. He originally thought that he had completely surpassed Lan Yunxiao, but he didn't expect that Lan Yunxiao would actually catch up when he saw him again. Could it be that his cultivation talent was really so much worse than Lan Yunxiao's? When Lan Hongtai and the rest saw Lan Yunxiao receive Lan Jingquan's punch without falling behind, they couldn't help but sigh in relief. The admiration in their eyes grew even stronger. I didn't expect Master Yun's strength to reach such a valiant level after being tortured for so many years. As expected of our Master Yun, Lan Borong's eyes flashed with excitement. Even though so many years had passed, it was as if nothing had changed. Lan Hongtai and the other members of the Lan family were also excited. In the past, they had submitted to Lan Yunxiao. Now that they saw him again, they felt the same as before. So what if you've reached the 7th level of the Purple Realm? After being imprisoned for so many years, I don't believe that you can still defeat me. Lan Jingquan roared. The madness in his eyes intensified. The origin energy in his body crazily poured out and attacked Lan Yunxiao mercilessly. Lan Yunxiao, Lan Jingquan's Lan Yunxiao's Lan Yunxiao's Lan. After so many years, it was time to settle the grudges between the two brothers. Bang! Boom, 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 boom. Lands right now. Lan, time. 7th level of the Purple Realm. Those were the top experts of the Shengxian continent. The power of this collision was naturally terrifying. With just a wave of his hand, the entire central square had already turned into ruins. Chapter 2767. Bailey Hongzhuang, Deep Beichan, and the rest retreated several hundred meters away. Fortunately, the plaza was huge, and there was an energy barrier in the middle. As the battle between Lan Jingquan and Lan Yunxiao broke out, the energy barrier automatically activated and blocked the destructive energy. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. The power of a Purple Realm expert's battle was truly formidable, much stronger than a Blue Realm cultivator's. Lan Borong and the rest wanted to help Lan Yunxiao subdue Lan Jingquan, but they were stopped by Lan Hongtai. Don't be impatient. Let them deal with the grudges between the two brothers themselves. Lan Hongtai's eyes flickered with a complicated and distant light. He felt that Lan Yunxiao had come prepared for this battle. Wife, will be dangerous for uncle to deal with Lan Jingquan alone. Di Beichan frowned at the scene before him. He didn't expect Lan Jingquan's hatred for Lan Yunxiao to reach such a degree. Even if he wanted to die, he would drag Lan Yunxiao down with him. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Father has been aware of Lan Jingquang's strength all these years. He has been cultivating in seclusion these days. He must have guessed that he would fight with Lan Jingquang. He must have made preparations. Yin Xiao has been preparing for this day for a long time. He wants to personally seek justice for us. Mu Lingbing's eyes were filled with confidence and determination. Lan Yunxiao had always been the man she admired the most. Looking at the radiant Lan Yunxiao before her, she felt as if she had returned to 20 years ago. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also shone with a warm light. She rejoiced in her heart. She rejoiced that her father was Lan Yunxiao. If her father was a scum like Lan Jingquang, it would be truly disgusting. The people of Blue Sun City all stayed in place to watch this earth-shattering battle. The older clansmen knew everything that had happened back then, so they were deeply moved when they saw this scene. As for the younger clansmen, they had long heard of Lan Yunxiao's reputation and were filled with curiosity when they saw him today. Lan Jingquang and Lan Yunxiao's movements were as fast as lightning. When they intertwined, they were like two whirlwinds. Every move was swift and fierce, as if they were irreconcilable enemies. Under such circumstances, the slightest bit of carelessness and the slightest mistake could cost him his life. Lan Yunxiao had been imprisoned for many years. Even though he had recovered and his cultivation had increased by quite a bit, he couldn't help but feel a little rusty when fighting because he hadn't fought for many years. As a result, Lan Yunxiao couldn't help but fall into a disadvantageous position. Lan Jingquang knew this was a good opportunity, so he acted even more ruthlessly and craftily. He must take Lan Yunxiao's life. When everyone saw this scene, their hearts couldn't help but raise. Master Yin has been imprisoned for so many years, but there are still some problems. If this continues, what if something happens to Master Yin? Master Kuang is so ruthless. He doesn't have the slightest intention of showing mercy. Lan Yunxiao fought while dodging, his brows gradually knitted together. There wasn't enough time left for him. He only had time to raise his cultivation and didn't have time to familiarize himself with fighting. That was why he fell into such a situation. Chapter 2768. When Yu Mamlan and Lan Qingyan saw that Lan Jingquang had the upper hand, their eyes were filled with excitement. They couldn't care less about the consequences now. They only hoped that Lan Jingquang could kill Lan Yunxiao. Perhaps, once Lan Yunxiao and the rest died, they could still keep their previous positions. Yu Siqing and Yu Taotian were also paying close attention to the battle above the ruins. Their Yu clan had stayed here because of Lan Jingquang. Once something happened to Lan Jingquang, their Yu clan's fate would be terrible. Moreover, once Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yishuan gained power, the first thing they would do was attack the Yu clan. Yu Siqing and Yu Taotian looked at each other, their eyes filled with the intention to retreat. While everyone was distracted by Lan Jingquang and Lan Yunxiao, they had to think of a way to leave and inform the Yu clan. Otherwise, when the dust settled, it would be too late for them to escape. Thinking of this, Yu Siqing and Yu Taotian silently retreated. However, just as Yu Siqing retreated and thought she was about to succeed, a voice suddenly rang out. "Master Yu, where are you going?" Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a mocking smile, her eyes cold and heartless. Yu Siqing was the main culprit in this matter. In addition, she was a cunning old fox, so Bailey Hongzhuang had already arranged for Baisher to keep an eye on her. As long as there was any movement, Baisher would immediately report to her. As expected, she wanted to take the chance to escape. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang appear, Yu Siqing's expression instantly turned ugly. The excitement in her eyes turned into despair. If it was before, with her strength, it wouldn't be a problem to escape from this place. A mere level 9 Blue Realm Bailey Hongzhuang was no match for her. Unfortunately, she was forced to take the elixir by Lan Jingquang and the rest of the idiots yesterday. Now, she didn't have the ability to leave. Now that she thought about it, Bailey Hongzhuang was really careful at every step. She had thought of everything. Yu Taotian didn't plan to pay attention to Yu Siqing after she was discovered. He only wanted to leave as soon as possible. After all, He had agreed to what Yusiching did. Once Lan Yunxiao and the rest started their revenge, he would be the first to bear the brunt. However, when he turned his head, Yu Taotian saw Bewitching and Mo Yunjua blocking his way. While fighting with Lan Jingquang, Lan Yunxiao regained his battle senses. One had to know that in the past, he was a combat expert. The reason why he was able to have such a powerful cultivation at such a young age was because of his constant battles. Although he hadn't fought with you had been uses. As the battle dragged on, Lan Yunxiao became more and more proficient in fighting. His originally disadvantageous position gradually turned into a tie. When Lan Jingquang noticed Lan Yunxiao's change, his expression couldn't help turning unsightly. Lan Yunxiao seemed to have been born to fight. His battle experience and adaptability were frightening. He knew Lan Yunxiao too well. If he didn't defeat Lan Yunxiao now, the situation would only get worse. Chapter 2769. Just like how Lan Jingquang understood Lan Yunxiao understood Lan Jingquang as well. Thus, Lan Yunxiao had long made preparations and quickly went up to meet him. In the past, the two brothers would often exchange pointers, but Lan Yunxiao had always secretly let Lan Jingquang win. Perhaps it was because of this that Lan Jingquang felt he wasn't any worse than Lan Yunxiao, and the evil thoughts in his heart grew stronger. Earth-shaking fluctuations continuously spread out, and the ground they were standing on began to tremble as if an earthquake would erupt at any time. Master, your father is truly a genius. In my opinion, if this continues, it won't be long before Lan Jingquang is defeated. Xiao Hei's large and round eyes sparkled with excitement and anticipation. She was originally worried, but seemed victory would soon fall into their hands. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Back then, the entire Lan family supported father to become the new head of the family. Lan Jingquang had always thought highly of himself and was blinded by jealousy. That's why he didn't see the flaw. If Lan Yunxiao hadn't been imprisoned and humiliated all these years, he would have become the #1 expert of the Lan family by now. Lan Xingyin stared blankly at the valiant blue figure. In the past, she had always heard of Lan Yunxiao's various amazing feats, but she didn't think much of it. Now that she saw it with her own eyes, she finally understood why her father was so afraid of Lan Yunxiao. As Lan Yunxiao fought more and more valiantly, Lan Jingquang gradually fell into a disadvantageous position and faintly showed signs of being unable to resist. Lan Jingquang's complexion had long turned black when he noticed this change. That year, when he fought Lan Yunxiao, it was the same situation. If this continued, he would definitely be captured. At this time, Lan Yunxiao couldn't help but look at the hesitant Lan Kaicheng and the rest. He shouted, "What are you waiting for? Hurry and join the battle. Do you think you'll have a good ending once I collapse? All these years, we've made decisions together. Even if you change your attitude now, will they dare to trust you in the future?" Lan Kaicheng and the rest were already hesitant and didn't know what to do. After all, they had always been on Lan Jingquang's side and were enemies with Lan Yunxiao. Once something happened to Lan Jingquang and Lan Yunxiao took over, it was easy to imagine their predicament. Now that they heard Lan Jingquang's call, they seemed to have understood everything. The struggle and hesitation in their eyes gradually disappeared and was replaced by madness. If they didn't take the risk now, everything they had would be in the hands of others in the future. In the next instant, Lan Kaicheng, Lan Yongtai, and the others exchanged glances before the origin energy within their bodies surged out as well, and they directly joined the battle. Attack! With Lan Kaicheng's shout, the elders and disciples of this faction began to attack Lan Hongtai's faction. At this moment, the Lan family actually began to have internal strife. Seeing that Lan Kaicheng and the rest had started to move, Lan Jingquang's eyes were filled with joy. He then said to Yu Taotian, "Father-in-law, what are you waiting for? If you don't seize this opportunity to resist, you won't have any chance in the future." Yu Taotian's heart was already restless. He immediately ordered the Yu clan's disciples to join the battle. Chapter 2770. Let's work together to kill them and establish a new Lan family. Lan Jinquang no longer cared about anything. He knew Lan Hongtai too well. When Lan Yunxiao wasn't around, Lan Hongtai already looked down on him. Now that Lan Yunxiao was back, he had no chance at all. Since he had no chance, he might as well overthrow Lan Hongtai completely. He already had enough crimes on him. He didn't mind carrying the crime of patricide. History was always written by the victors. As long as he became the Lan family's patriarch, he would be the one to write the history of the Lan family. As for other people's gazes, what did it matter? As long as he had power, it would be fine. Hearing Lan Jinquang's words, Lan Kaicheng, Yu Taotian, and the others became more ruthless. They were grasshoppers on the same rope. As long as they succeeded, they would be rich and prosperous in the future. Lan Hongtai and the others didn't expect this to happen. They didn't expect Lan Kaicheng and the others to be so crazy and choose to fight to the death at this time. All these years, Lan Jinquang had gained enough power in the Lan family. Now that he had instigated it, the rebellion was extremely terrifying. Lan Hongtai's eyes became colder. The Lan family had never had such internal strife in so many years. He immediately ordered, "Attack. If you meet anyone who fights to the death, take their lives." At this moment, Lan Hongtai acted swiftly and decisively, making a quick decision. As soon as Lan Hongtai's voice fell, Lan Borong and the others immediately took action, and the direct descendants of the Lan family also joined in. This was the first time the Lan family had an internal strife. It happened suddenly, but it was inevitable that there would be a war. The two factions fought together. For a moment, the entire Blue Sun City was in chaos. The entire central square had become a huge battlefield. There were battlefields everywhere. Lan Jinquang had been the leader of the Lan family all these years. In addition to second elder and third elder buying people's hearts, there were many people in the Lan family who belonged to their faction. Originally, the internal strife between the two sides should be in a stalemate. However, with the addition of the Yu family's experts, the situation gradually became one-sided. Although Bailey Hongzhuang made the Yu family suffer a huge loss, most of them were the younger generation. Most of the Yu family's experts were still present. In this kind of battle, the number of experts determined the outcome of the battle. Lan Yunxiao, do you think the Lan family will be the same as before now that you've returned? Lan Jinquang's eyes were cold, and his lips curled into a mocking smile. Right now, the majority of the Lan family is supporting me. You're just a past tense. Lan Jinquang's face was filled with pride. Originally, he only planned to let Lan Qingyan sit on the patriarch seat while he controlled everything from behind the scenes. Now that Lan Yunxiao had appeared, his original plan had failed. But once he overturned everything, he would become the new head of the Lan family. Without Lan Hongtai and the others who didn't support him, the new Lan family would be more cohesive. Lan Yunxiao's expression was indifferent, but he didn't reveal a change in expression like Lan Jinquang had expected. You've spent so many years, and yet you've only reached this step. In the end, you're still so pathetic. I am ashamed of the fact that we are blood brothers. Chapter 2771. Hearing Lan Yunxiao's words, Lan Jinquang couldn't help but feel annoyed. Do you think I want to be brothers with a guy like you? If I knew you were this kind of guy, I would have thought of a way to kill you when Mother was pregnant with you. A guy like you should have received retribution long ago. Lan Jinquang's furious and emotionless eyes met Lan Yunxiao's cold and disgusted eyes, igniting a string of intense sparks. At this moment, the two only regarded each other as fated enemies and no longer had any feelings for each other. After Lan Qingyan saw that their faction had gained the upper hand, her originally ashen face rekindled with hope. Her father was still very powerful after all. Even if something like this happened, they could still have everything. They could even take advantage of today's opportunity to completely take the lives of Bailey Hongzhuang's family. Yumanlon almost fainted after seeing the previous situation. However, the change in the situation also shocked her. In the next second, she immediately pulled Lan Qingyan out of the battlefield. "Mother, I want to help father." Lan Qingyan frowned as she looked at Yumanlon. Lan Jingquang and the others were fighting a bloody battle. In any case, she was also a Purple Realm expert. Once she joined in, she would be of great help. "Qingyan, we already have the upper hand. You don't need to do anything. If you stay here, swords and spears have no eyes. If something happens to you, what should we do? But in this situation, if I don't do anything, it's not appropriate," Lan Qingyan said hesitantly. "Right now, everyone is busy fighting. Who would notice you? It won't be too late for you to go when the situation gets better." Hearing this, Lan Qingyan nodded and said, "All right then." A faint smell of blood spread in the air. In this kind of internal strife, many Lan clan members killed each other and paid with their lives. When Lan Hongtai saw that Lan Jingquang and the others had gained the upper hand, his expression couldn't help but become unsightly. With his control over the Lan clan, it wouldn't be a problem for him to suppress Lan Jingquang and the others. However, the Yu clan's experts seemed to be risking their lives at this moment as they killed the Lan clan's people with all their might. They were really hateful. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't act immediately after seeing the chaos erupt. Only when the chaos was complete would they be able to find out who was on Lan Jingquang's side. Only with a clear understanding would it be easier for them to get rid of these tumors in the future. As she gradually grasped the situation, she gave Si-Tu Yin and Mu Jin Se a meaningful glance. "Patriarch, if this continues, our situation may fall into a disadvantageous position." A worried expression appeared on Lan Borong's face. There were a lot of experts in the Yu clan. Furthermore, their attacks were extremely ruthless. It could be said that they did not show any mercy when killing the Lan clan members. "We shouldn't have taken in the Yu clan back then. This bunch of ingrates. I really want to kill everyone in the Yu clan. Damned Yu clan." Lan Hongtai also hated the Yu clan to the core. They actually dared to be so ruthless in this kind of situation. They were simply despicable and shameless. Chapter 2772. You should have seen it. The final victor will be me. Smelling the scent of blood in the air, Lan Jingquang's complacent expression grew stronger. He couldn't help but feel excited at the thought of becoming the Lan family's patriarch. A cold smile appeared on Lan Yunxiao's face. "I advise you not to be happy too early. Otherwise, you'll be very disappointed." Looking at Lan Yunxiao's unhurried appearance, Lan Jingquang had a bad premonition. Logically speaking, the dust had already settled, and there shouldn't be any unforeseen changes. However, he knew his younger brother's personality too well. If he wasn't confident, Lan Yunxiao would be extremely anxious. Could it be that Lan Yunxiao still had a backup plan? Just as the battle reached its climax and Lan Hongtai's faction was at a disadvantage, a group of experts suddenly appeared. Seeing the sudden appearance of these experts, everyone present couldn't help but be shocked. Could it be that someone wanted to take advantage of the Lan family's internal strife to loot a burning house? However, when another figure appeared, everyone understood what was going on. Si-Tu-Yin's figure slowly appeared in everyone's line of sight and stood beside Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching, Tiangang's sect master. Lan Hongtai looked at Si-Tu-Yin in astonishment. He never thought that Si-Tu-Yin would appear here. Lan family head, long time no see. Si-Tu-Yin's face was rippling with a faint smile as he greeted Lan Hongtai. "I didn't expect to see sect master Si-Tu-Yin here. I've embarrassed myself in front of you." Lan Hongtai's face was filled with astonishment and embarrassment. Everything that happened today was one wave after another. The twists and turns of the situation left him speechless. Let's leave the small talk for later. Right now, we have to settle this riot. With a wave of Si-Tu-Yin's hand, those experts quickly joined the battle and became the new force for Lan Hongtai's faction. The originally excited Yu Taotian and Lan Jingquang's expressions turned ugly when they saw the sudden appearance of the Tiangang sect's people. They had never thought that there would be another group of people outside. This way, the battle situation would change once again. When Yu Siqing saw Situ Yin appear, she was also stunned. Was there really such a coincidence in this world? Could it be that everything was predestined? It was impossible for Situ Yin to know that Mu Lingbing was his and Mu Jin's daughter. However, his granddaughter, Lan Yixuan, was Di Beichen's sweetheart. In that case, had he accidentally helped his daughter's family? How could there be such a coincidence? Yu Siqing could not think straight for a moment. She was furious. Lan Yixuan's luck was really good. However, when a figure appeared, Yu Siqing couldn't help but widen her eyes and gulp. Her face was filled with disbelief. In his line of sight, a light yellow figure slowly appeared. That otherworldly figure, that familiar face, everything was exactly the same as it was 40 years ago. How is this possible? Yu Siqing only felt as if her heart had been grabbed by someone. The most impossible thing had happened just like that. She couldn't help but rub her eyes, wondering if she was seeing things. Chapter 2773. Mu Jins slowly walked to Situ Yan's side, and behind her was a group of cultivators. Just by sensing their auras, one could tell that they weren't weak. When Lan Hongtai saw Mu Jins appear, he couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. The Sun Moon Palace Master. When Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing got married, he had seen Mu Jins before. However, the Sun Moon Palace had been in seclusion, so he hadn't seen her again. He never expected that the Sun Moon Palace Master would also appear today. Mu Jins waved her hand, and the cultivators behind her all joined the battle. Sky Dipper Sect and Sun Moon Palace were very powerful existences in the sect. Although Situ Yin and Mu Jin Sei didn't bring a lot of people with them, they brought true experts. For this kind of internal strife, the appearance of these experts was enough to change the final outcome. With the addition of two groups of experts, the situation of the battle immediately took a shocking turn. The Yu clan's troops were quickly subdued, and those who resisted were killed without hesitation. Originally, the Yu clan's cultivators wanted to fight to the death, but when they saw the other party kill without a word, they were completely stunned. Under this kind of situation, they could only choose to surrender. After all, if they stubbornly resisted, they would only lose their lives. Surrendering might give them a chance to live. Yu Taoyan's expression became incomparably unsightly. Originally, victory was in sight, but he didn't expect that two groups of experts would suddenly appear and completely reverse the situation. Lan Jingquang's expression instantly darkened as he observed the changes in the surroundings. He angrily looked at Lan Yunxiao and said, "Is this the trump card you've been so confident in?" Lan Yunxiao's lips curled into a faint smile. "You have your preparations, and I naturally have mine. Did you think that after seeing the cunning and shameless side of people, I would come here without any preparations?" For many years, Lan Jingquang had been mocking him for his stupidity in front of him to comfort himself. In the past, Lan Yunxiao had never been on guard against his older brother, but everything was different now. Following Lan Yunxiao's words, Lan Jingquang's expression turned even uglier. He mocked, "After so many years, I've underestimated your progress." Lan Jingquang had never expected that the Big Dipper sect and the Sun Moon Palace would help him at such a time. The limitless palace that they had expected didn't appear. If only one of them had appeared, with the help of the Yu clan, they would still be able to put up a fight. But now that two forces had appeared, there was really no hope for them. Admit defeat. Putting aside your dirty and despicable methods, you will always be my defeated opponent. Lan Yunxiao's eyes were filled with confidence and pride. He would never repeat the mistakes he made because of his soft-heartedness. He would not be merciful to anyone who was hostile to him, even if that person was his own brother, because he wanted to use his own hands to protect his wife and daughter. "I won't lose." Lan Jingquang's eyes were filled with unwillingness and madness. He had lost the first 20 years, but in the latter 20 years, he had always appeared as the victor in front of Lan Yunxiao. Chapter 2774. After C2 Yin and Mu Ling Bing helped subdue the Yu clan, they didn't interfere too much with the Lan clan's internal strife. As long as there were no other clans interfering, Lan Hongtai could completely suppress this rebellion. Noticing C2 Yin and Mu Ling Bing's actions, a trace of gratitude emerged in Lan Hongtai's heart. He knew that the two of them were giving him enough face. The Lan clan's internal strife must be resolved by him, the clan head. Men, capture all of them. Following Lan Hongtai's command, the cultivators of this faction acted as if they had been injected with chicken blood, and their actions sped up. Previously, because of the Yu clan's cultivators' interference, Lan Hongtai's faction's cultivators could be said to be fighting one against two, so naturally they were at a disadvantage. Now that there was no interference, it was much easier to deal with Lan Jingquang's faction's cultivators. In a short time, the internal strife cultivators were subdued one by Lan Borong and the others. Lan Qingyin looked at the situation in front of her. The joy that was originally revealed on her face gradually disappeared and was replaced by a thick panic. She didn't expect that they would fall into such a situation in such a short time when victory was in sight. Lan Qingyin furiously glared at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun, her eyes filled with confusion. Could it be that Di Beichun really liked Bailey Hongzhuang to this extent? In order to help Bailey Hongzhuang take everything away, he even invited the sect master of Tiangang's sect. Why? An indescribable madness and jealousy spread in Lan Qingyin's heart. If the person with Di Beichun was her, then everything would be rewritten. At this moment, Lan Qingyin couldn't help but recall the first time she saw Di Beichun. It was at the Yu clan. She understood everything now. The first time she saw Di Beichun was when Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang joined hands to save Lan Yunxiao and Mu Ling Bing. However, she didn't think of this at that time. Now that she thought about it, she regretted it to the extreme. If she had spread the news as soon as possible, as long as she had caught Bailey Hongzhuang, this situation would not have happened. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Bang! The sound of a heavy object falling to the ground was heard. Everyone saw a figure being smashed into the ruins. Lan Yunxiao stepped on Lan Jingquang's body and looked at the blood flowing from the latter's lips with a stupefied expression. You lost. Lan Yunxiao's cold and indifferent voice came out of his mouth. His deep and enchanting eyes flickered with a bright and resplendent light. All these years, every time Lan Jingquang had humiliated him and Mu Ling Bing, he had hoped that there would be a chance to defeat Lan Jingquang. Today, it had finally happened. This was an explanation to himself, but it was also an explanation to Mu Ling Bing and Lan Yishuan. Lan Jingquang's gaze was malicious and furious as he glared at the lofty Lan Yunxiao. He opened his mouth and spat out blood. Lan Yunxiao didn't intend to listen to Lan Jingquang's words. He stepped on Lan Jingquang's shoulder and handed him over to an elder of the Lan family. Then he slowly walked to Lan Hongtai and the others. When everyone saw that Lan Jingquang had been defeated by Lan Yunxiao, their hearts were filled with emotion. Chapter 2775. As Lan Jingquang was subdued, Lan Kaicheng, Lan Yongtai, and the rest were also subdued. When the other cultivators saw that Lan Jingquang and the rest were subdued, their morale was affected, and they were defeated even faster. This internal strife of the Lan family had started abnormally fiercely, but it ended quickly as well. However, the area around the central square was already a mess. Blood and corpses were scattered all over the ground, showing the baptism brought by the internal strife. Internal strife among aristocratic families was nothing new in the Shengxian continent. Every time someone wanted to take over everything, the family would be baptized with blood. Only after this baptism would the hearts of the family members become more resolute. Obviously, those who had died on the ground were nothing. Lan Jingquang, Lan Kaicheng, and the rest would pay the price in blood. This was the price they had to pay for inciting internal strife. Lan Kaicheng and the rest were all ashen. If they had won, they would have been able to enjoy wealth. But now that they had lost, there was only one outcome waiting for them: death. When Lan Hongtai saw that the situation was completely under control, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. However, the way he looked at Lan Jingquang was no longer indifferent. Instead, it was replaced by a thick sense of disgust. Originally, he cared about the relationship between father and son. Although he was angry, he felt even more regret. But he never thought that Lan Jingquang would do so many crazy things. If he had known this earlier, he would have killed this unfilial son. Now that things had come to this, Lan Jingquang's actions had completely cut off the relationship between father and son. This guy, when he became crazy, even wanted to kill him. He really did not understand why the difference between his two sons was so great. Men, lock them all up. Lan Hongtai's voice was cold and dignified as he gave the order. However, just as Lan Borong and the rest were about to take Lan Jingquang and the rest away, Si Tian suddenly spoke. Lan family head, I need to personally punish this person who plotted against my daughter's family. Si Tian looked at Lan Jingquang coldly. The reason why his daughter and granddaughter had suffered so much was definitely related to this crazy guy in front of him. As a father, he had not been able to seek justice for his daughter for so many years. Now, no matter what, he should do his duty as a father. With Si Tuyen's words, everyone present could not help but become stunned. They all looked at Si Tuyen in doubt, wondering if they had heard wrong. Yu Siqing's eyes widened instantly. If she wasn't sure of her guess before, Si Tuyen's words had already explained everything. Si Tuyen already knew that Mu Lingbing was his biological daughter. He had come here not because of Di Beichun, but because of Mu Lingbing and Lan Yishuan. Looking at Mu Jinsei beside Si Tuyen, Yu Siqing understood that they had already contacted each other during this period of time. Could it be that, after so many years, Si Tuyen and Mu Jinsei were together again? Yu Siqing was shocked. She had destroyed everything with her own hands. How could they still be together after 40 years? Chapter 2776. Sect Leader Situ, are you talking about your daughter? Lan Hongtai couldn't wrap his head around it. Since when did Sect Leader Situ have a daughter? Why didn't he know anything about it? Lan Borong and the others looked at each other in dismay. For what they knew, Sect Leader Situ had never taken a wife. How could he have a daughter? Furthermore, it seemed that the daughter Sect Leader Situ was talking about was Mu Lingbing. Situ Yin nodded. That's right, Lingbing is my daughter. Once these words were spoken, the entire Lan clan and Yu clan's clansmen were dumbstruck. Lan Hongtai and the others looked at Mu Lingbing and Situ Yin. From what they knew, Mu Lingbing was an orphan and didn't know who her biological parents were. They hadn't expected that Mu Lingbing would return with such shocking news. Her father was the sect leader of the Tiangang sect. The crowd couldn't help but look at Mu Jins, Mu Lingbing, and Lan Yishuan's similar features. Everything they hadn't understood seemed to make sense now. Forgive me for asking, but what is the relationship between Palace Leader Mu and Lingbing? Lan Hongtai asked hesitantly. When he had first seen Mu Jins and Mu Lingbing's faces, he had been very suspicious. Now it seemed that his guess had been correct. I am Lingbing's mother. Mu Jins naturally wouldn't hide the truth now. Because of her stubbornness, Mu Lingbing had always thought that she was an orphan. Now that all the misunderstandings had been cleared up, everything was open and above board. Lan Jingquang raised his head in shock and stared at Mu Lingbing in shock. He had never known that Mu Lingbing had such a noble status. Yu Manlan was also completely dumbfounded. This was just too unbelievable. When she had first married into the Lan family, she had been very proud because she was the young miss of the Yu family. On the other hand, Mu Lingbing was only a disciple of the Sun Moon Palace. She didn't even know who her biological parents were. Because of this difference in status, Yu Manlan often mocked Mu Lingbing, but Mu Lingbing didn't seem to care. What angered her the most was that Mu Lingbing's status couldn't compare to hers, but her influence in the Lan family was greater than hers. Therefore, she felt even more unconvinced. But now, she was being told that Mu Lingbing was of such high status? Her father was the sect leader of the Heavenly Dipper sect, and her mother was the palace master of the Sun Moon Palace. With these two identities added together, Mu Lingbing was truly a golden child. Even the entire Shengxian continent. How many people could compare to her? Once the Heavenly Dipper sect and the Sun Moon Palace joined forces, the other forces would definitely not be a match for them. Lan Jingquang looked at Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing in a daze. In the past, he only thought that Lan Yunxiao was too stupid. He only wanted to marry a wife because he liked her and didn't care about her background. He took Yu Manlan and obtained the help of the Yu clan. However, in the face of Mu Lingbing's brilliance and dexterity, and in contrast to Yu Manlan's stupidity, Lan Jingquang felt somewhat helpless in his heart. However, he had always used this point to convince himself. But now, the situation in front of him once again dealt him a heavy blow. The woman Lan Yunxiao married based on his feelings actually had such a terrifying identity. He found it hard to accept. Chapter 2777. Heavens, I never knew Madam's identity was so noble. Doesn't that mean our Lan family is in-laws with Tiangang sect and Sun Moon Palace? This news is too shocking. Those who said Madam's identity was too low for Master Yun should shut their mouths. I always thought Madam wasn't an ordinary person. If she wasn't the child of a noble family, how could Madam's temperament be so outstanding? The members of the Lan clan sighed and looked at Mu Lingbing with respect and admiration. Even though Lan Hongtai had guessed it, he still couldn't help but exclaim after hearing Mu Jin's confirmation. His daughter-in-law really didn't come from an ordinary background. Lan Hongtai glanced at Lan Jingquang, then at Lan Yunxiao and the others. Since Sect Master Sidu wants to deal with it, then I'll leave it to you. After what Jingquang has done for so many years, I don't have the face to face you. In fact, as Mu Lingbing's father-in-law, Lan Hongtai felt guilty. Ever since Mu Lingbing married into the Lan family, she had always performed well and was loved and respected by everyone in the family. However, he had caused Mu Lingbing to suffer for so many years, and the culprit behind all this was his other son. Now that Mu Lingbing's parents were here to seek justice for Mu Lingbing, what right did he have to refuse? Hearing Lan Hongtai's words, Lan Jingquang's rage intensified. His eyes burned with fury, as if he wanted nothing more than to burn Lan Hongtai to ashes. Lan Hongtai, you wretched old man. If you weren't so biased, how could I have become like this? Lan Jingquang's expression was malevolent, no longer concealing the hatred on his face. They were both his sons, but Lan Hongtai's actions had made him bitterly disappointed. Lan Hongtai obviously didn't expect Lan Jingquang to suddenly say something like this. His dignified brows gradually furrowed. If it weren't for the things you've done over the years, how could you have fallen to such a state? Seeing that you are my son, I've tolerated you for so many years, but how could you be worthy of being called a human after what you've done? Back then, I was clearly no worse than Lan Yunxiao, but you decided to make Yunxiao your successor. Do you know that I am your eldest son? Have you ever considered my feelings? Lan Jing yelled crazily, questioning Lan Hongtai one sentence after another. From start to finish, you only told me to properly help Lan Yunxiao. Why can I only be a supporting character? Since you're unwilling to hand over the Lan family to me, then what's wrong with me snatching it all away with my own hands? Following Lan Jingquang's words, everyone's eyes fell on Lan Hongtai. What Lan Jingquang said seemed to make some sense. It was because of this that Lan Jingquang's attitude was so extreme. Hearing this, Lan Hongtai sighed. Even now, you still don't understand your true strength. If one wanted to become the head of the Lan family, not only did they need to have powerful strength, they also needed to be broad-minded. You thought that Yun Zhao's strength was on par with yours, but you never realized that it was Yun Xiao who had always been yielding to you in order to protect your laughable self-esteem. Chapter 2778. Why do you think all the elders supported Yun Xiao to become the next patriarch of the Lan family? Because we can clearly see everything that you can't see. Lan Hongtai's words were like pearls, each of them heavily pounding on Lan Jingquang's heart. Why are so many clansmen unwilling to forgive you? It's because you did such a deranged thing to a younger brother who helped and protected you in every way. Ask yourself honestly, who is more suitable to be the next patriarch of the Lan family between the two of them? Lan Hongtai's eyes were filled with helplessness. Lan Yunxiao had always been his pride. Lan Yunxiao cultivated diligently, had a peaceful personality, and was broad-minded. He was willing to lend a helping hand to anyone in the family and had never cared about fame or fortune. Lan Jingquang, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. He cultivated diligently not to protect the family, but to prove his strength. He pretended to be polite to his clansmen and only got close to those who were beneficial to him. Lan Hongtai clearly saw through all of these, which was why he chose Lan Yunxiao without hesitation. He had once indirectly reminded Lan Jingquang, thinking that the latter would understand. But he found that his thinking was too simple. Lan Jingquang had sunk too deep and couldn't see through everything. As Lan Hongtai's voice fell, Lan Borong and the others also quietly nodded. Back then, they all thought that Lan Yunxiao was the hope of the Lan family. With his existence, the entire Lan family would prosper and unite as one. In the history of the Lan family, it was rare for such a prestigious young master to appear. Unfortunately, everything was destroyed by Lan Jingquang. All these years, as his elders, they had forgiven Lan Jingquang for everything he had done. But Lan Jingquang took it for granted and stubbornly persisted in going about things the wrong way. At this moment, even Lan Kaiqing and Lan Yongtai sank into silence, because this was something they understood as well. Lan Jingquang looked at the helpless and pained gazes of the people around him and sensed that they all agreed with him. His heart completely collapsed. He stared blankly at Lan Hongtai, then at Lan Yunxiao. He shook his head like a soulless puppet. Impossible, this is impossible. In the next second, Lan Jingquang pointed at Lan Yunxiao. When did he go easy on me? I clearly relied on my own strength to fight him to a draw. Lan Yunxiao only glanced at Lan Jingquang, unwilling to speak. Lan Hongtai and the rest looked at Lan Jingquang and shook their heads helplessly. He was the one who refused to come to his senses. Si Tu Yen and Mu Jinsei also shook their heads. A narrow-minded person would never be able to see through all of this. Even if they were blinded by a single leaf, they would still think that everything they thought was right. Yu Manlan and Lan Qingyin's expressions also became extremely ugly. They had always believed that Lan Jingquang's thinking was correct. Now that they knew the truth, they felt as if they had been struck by lightning. But more than that, he didn't believe it. This was because they had seen Lan Jingquang's capabilities. He was clearly a very capable person. However, Lan Jingquang seemed to have suffered a huge blow. He was dispirited. In the end, he kept muttering, "This is impossible." Lan Hongtai turned his head to look at Si Tu Yen and Mu Jinsei, his face filled with shame. Chapter 2779. Lan Hongtai had always felt apologetic towards Mu Lingbing. Now that he was facing Mu Jins and Si Tu Yen, his shame and apology reached its peak. With Mu Lingbing's noble status, she should have enjoyed the same treatment as the palace master after marrying into the Lan family. Who would have thought that Mu Lingbing would suffer for so many years? How could he explain this to Mu Lingbing's parents? Si Tu Yen and Mu Jins looked at each other and shook their heads at Lan Hongtai's words. Speaking of which, we have let Yun Xiao down. Si Tu Yan's expression was apologetic. In fact, although Lan Jingquang had the intention to harm Lan Yunxiao, Yu Siqing had helped him because of Si Tu Yen and Mu Jins. Without Yu Siqing's help, Lan Jingquang wouldn't have been able to do this. Therefore, from this perspective, it was their family that had dragged Lan Yunxiao down. The apologetic Lan Hongtai was waiting to hear Si Tu Yen and Mu Jin's reprimand, but he didn't expect to hear such words. A trace of doubt involuntarily surfaced in his eyes. "Sec Master Situ, what are you saying?" It's all my fault for not teaching my children well. That's why such a tragedy happened and caused Lingbing and Yishuan to suffer. Situ Yin waved his hand. Family headlong. Both of us have our reasons for this matter. It's hard to say whether we blame or not. In the end, it's us parents who have let our children down. Lan Yunxiao, Mu Lingbing, and Lan Yishuan were all innocent. If they had done a better job as parents, then such a thing wouldn't have happened. Lan Hongtai nodded. As a father, he indeed hadn't fulfilled his duty. Lan Yunxiao, Mu Lingbing, and Bailey Hongzhuang revealed smiles when they saw this scene. Although they had suffered a lot over the years, it was all over now. Seeing Situ Yin and the others like this, they felt very warm in their hearts. Perhaps this was one of the difficulties they had to face in their lives. After experiencing it, they felt even more indescribable emotions. Lan Qingyin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. She had always thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was an unknown person. She didn't know what kind of luck she had to be able to become the young palace master of Wuji Palace. However, now that everything had been revealed, she found it even more difficult to accept. So the current situation was that Bailey Hongzhuang was the young palace mistress of Limitless Palace. The sect master of Heavenly Dipper Sect was her grandfather, the palace mistress of Sun Moon Palace was her grandmother, and her father was a member of the Lan clan. With all these identities added together, Bailey Hongzhuang already had 4 major powers behind her. Even in the entire Shangxian continent, how many people could compare to him? Compared to her, she was only a direct descendant of the Lan clan. The Yu clan had already declined a long time ago, so what did she count as in front of her? No wonder the Sun Moon Palace's disciples also stood on Bailey Hongzhuang's side during the Battle of Deer Pursuit. So there's a connection between them, Lan Qingyin said in a daze. Previously, she felt that Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't be compared to her and wasn't worthy of Bewitching. But now, she was the ugly duckling? The members of the Lan clan naturally thought of all this. Thinking about it, Bailey Hongzhuang's identity was really a little terrifying. Chapter 2780. Yu Siqing's gaze was fixed upon Mu Jinsei's body. The shock in her eyes had not dissipated. She was well aware of the power of the goo poison that she had personally administered. Logically speaking, Mu Jinsei's face should have been disfigured long ago, and she should have been living in agony all these years. However, not only had Mu Jinsei's face not been disfigured, on the contrary, her face had reverted back to how it was 40 years ago. Even 20 years ago, when Mu Jinsei had come to find her in search of Mu Lingbing's whereabouts, Mu Jinsei had not looked like this. What had happened to Mu Jinsei all these years? Yu Siqing's heart was filled with jealousy. Now that she was with Mu Jinsei, the latter was still young and beautiful, while she was an old woman who was over 60 years old. How could she accept such a disparity? Mu Jinsei also felt Yu Siqing's sharp gaze and couldn't help but look back. Her outstanding features curled into a faint smile. Yu Siqing, long time no see. You're actually fine after being inflicted with my goo poison? Now the things had come to this. Yu Siqing no longer hid anything. Since Mu Jinsei and Situ Yin had already acknowledged each other, she was sure that they both knew what had happened over the years. She only wanted to know how Mu Jinsei had managed to cure her goo poison. Hearing this, Mu Jinsei's gaze gradually turned cold. The torment she had suffered over the years was still vivid in her mind. Because of Yu Siqing, she had suffered for so many years. Now, this despicable and shameless person was asking her such a question. It's all thanks to my maternal granddaughter. She cured me of your poison. Mu Jinsei's face showed a trace of pride. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly the pride of all of them. As her elders, not only had they not helped Bailey Hongzhuang in the slightest, they had relied on Bailey Hongzhuang's help to reach where they were today. Once these words were spoken, Yu Siqing's gaze immediately turned to Bailey Hongzhuang's face. She gritted her teeth and said, "This poison was cured by you?" Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. "Didn't I tell you before? I modified the poison you used on my grandmother and returned it to you. Nowadays, the goo poison has already disappeared without a trace, and it is extremely difficult to cultivate a goo worm. However, your goo worm is very powerful, and you will soon experience this pain. With Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Yu Siqing's face suddenly changed. Even though she had heard Bailey Hongzhuang mention it before, she still found it hard to believe. You used the same goo worm? Yu Siqing's heart was filled with shock. Ever since she found out that Bailey Hongzhuang was the one who had poisoned the Yu clan, she knew that her attainments in the art of healing and poison could not be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang. Therefore, the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang had cured the goo poison was not something that was very difficult to accept. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was actually able to use the same goo worm to poison her grandmother. This method was a little too shocking. Could it be that the difference between her and Bailey Hongzhuang was so huge? That's right, I don't have so much time to cultivate another goo worm, so I directly used one aspect. Coincidentally, isn't this the pain that you wanted my grandmother to suffer? I'll return it all to you now. You don't have to try to cure the poison. With your strength, it's not enough. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent. Her gaze towards Yu Siqing was filled with contempt. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.